Hello, everyone. Welcome to Symphony Mix. I'm your host, Peter Jaffe. I'm the music director and conductor of the Stockton Symphony. We've got with us actually not only Benjamin Reddish, who's right here, but a couple of other really distinguished guests for a really special program. And before we get going, I want to do a special shout out to the faculty, the staff, and especially the students at Delta College who have put this whole show together. They're producing it. They are fabulous. We love you guys. Now, the reason that this is so special is that we're giving a classics concert with the Stockton Symphony on Saturday, April 27th at 6 p.m. at Atherton Auditorium right here at Delta College. That is like no other classics concert we've ever done before. We're hooking in to the 7 sister cities of Stockton. You all know we have sister cities, right? I hope I can name them all. We've got Empalme, Mexico, Asaba, Nigeria, Battambang in Cambodia, Iloilo in the Philippines. We've got Shimizu in Japan and Foshan in China. What did I leave out? Parma in Italy. How can you leave out that? Because it's our grand finale. In any case, we have these 7 sister cities, and in this concert with the Stockton Symphony, we are playing music from all 7 of those regions, interspersed with some pieces that were actually written for the Stockton Symphony, and we premiered them here. For instance, the Fanfare for a Grand Occasion, written by Max Simoncic, who is a longtime professor right here at Delta College, professor emeritus. Chris Brubeck, the son of the famed jazz legend and a jazz legend in his own right, he wrote us a fanfare called Fanfare for a Remarkable Friend. It makes me blush to say this, but I was the friend. And then we're also playing the Port of Stockton March. So there are actually 10 different pieces on this program. Now, in the spirit of full disclosure, it's not easy to find a really top-notch symphonic composer from each one of the sister cities, but we got really close. For instance, Empalme, Mexico is the sister city. Well, our composer, Arturo Marquez, grew up in that same region. And so practically all the pieces on this program are at least written in a city that was within an hour's drive of one of our sister cities. I don't want anybody complaining, saying that I didn't pinpoint the city exactly, but we're really close with each one. Now, let me tell you how this all came about. Sitting right next to me is the distinguished Mr. Benjamin Reddish, who is a member of the board of the Stockton Symphony, but he's had a really illustrious career as an educator. He worked for a long time at Edison High School. He is co-president now of a special organization called Transitional Careers and Management Services. At one point, he was really distinguished as an Alpha Phi Alpha member and a past president of the Esquire Association. Ben, it's wonderful to have you with us. Thanks so much for being here.
Yes, it's a pleasure being here, Peter. As I look back into history and I think about the things did I do those kinds of things?
You sure did.
But I guess I did because I found some stuff that was there with my name on it. My wife has, she's a filer in the house, and did you know you had all of this stuff here? I said, what stuff? She says, stuff with your names on it. So I've had the opportunity to be in the Stockton community since 1960, just a few days ago.
Well, you can tell that Benjamin has a wonderful sense of humor, and so this is how this came about. We were all sitting at a board meeting almost 2 years ago with the Stockton Symphony. And Benjamin said,
wouldn't it be nice if we could incorporate in the symphony the sister cities of Stockton, so persons will have an opportunity to see that we are culturally involved with the various countries. And most folks don't know that. So
right.
The idea to have the symphony, if they were to put on a program that would incorporate the Stockton sister cities.
So you can see this was like the brainchild of Benjamin Reddish, that he came up with this idea. And just to show you how little of a clue I had no idea that his wife, Janie Reddish, just happened to be the president of the Sister Cities Association. You sly dog, you.
Well, you know, some things you look back and you don't talk about. You heard the things, you see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. None of this is evil, but it's an opportunity. It just popped out from someplace, and there it was.
Well, there it was. And so we are forever indebted to you, Benjamin, for coming up with this idea. And so we're going to play, we can't play music from every single one of the 7 regions on this show, but you got to come to the concert where we'll do it all. But we like to start now with a conga del fuego nuevo, a conga of the new fire, written by one of the most famous living Mexican composers in the universe right now. His name is Arturo Márquez. And he wrote this conga, and to understand a conga, you got to get the idea of a syncopation and an early beat. So if we go 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1 da da ba ba ba, ba da 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 ba, da da da. You know how each one of those 2s kind of comes a little bit early on purpose. That's the whole spirit of this conga del fuego nuevo. So check this out, everybody. What do you think, Ben? I think I saw you dancing in your seat.
Well, when I listen to that kind of music, or any kind, I think about those persons who engage themselves in what we call dancing, but I call it rhythmic calisthenics with a syncopated beat.
Well, there you go. Rhythmic calisthenics with a syncopated beat.
Right. And you can plug that into anything, but then you add the music to it, and as I look around and the body movements and things, it's interesting. It's just simply fabulous. And I think about when I first started working in Stockton as an educator, the classroom, I looked around, and I had never seen so many different ethnicities. And I was using words like San Jose, San Joaquin, before I learned the appropriate pronunciation. So it was a learning experience for me.
Right.
And as I fast forwarded through the years, I had the pleasure of experiencing practically all of the cultures in the city of Stockton through education. And that was simply fantastic.
Well, and I think what's so interesting about this Sister Cities project is, you know, it's been a buzzword in our culture now for decades, the idea of multiculturalism and getting diversity, which we all want. But the way in which we can sort of hook into that organization and have the Sister Cities kind of gives the whole idea some teeth.
Yes.
And so it's a fantastic concept. Now, before we move on to our next piece of music, you would be too modest to bring this up yourself, Ben, but Ben was recently honored at a Central Valley Asian Chamber of Commerce event. And you shared with some people some amazing words of wisdom about just how to live your life. And I was wondering if you could treat us to a couple of those right
Well, you know, as I think back on that in retrospect, most folks don't realize how much power they have. And the first thing I say, when you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye. And we complain about society, but the person that are society are the person that are looking back to you in the mirror. And we want to improve the relationships in Stockton. You think about what can you do? What can I do when I see another human being out there? I don't see a car, I see a person who has the same needs that I do, perhaps do many of the same things that I do, and they enjoy doing it. A funny thing happened, this will be a quick one. A student in my class, when I was teaching, he said to Mr. Reddish, make him stop, make Jesus stop hitting me. And
Wow.
the word is really Jesus.
Uh-huh.
So I said, well, I learned how to pronounce those words, and before I knew who Jesus was, I knew that was Jesus. So those are the little tidbits that I remember that made my life, my experience, very profitable. And I always say I never had a bad day. A bad day is how you choose to look at it. If you look at the positive side of it, let the other stuff go.
Well, it's a wonderfully refreshing attitude, and you've lived your maxims. You've done it for decades, and
Yes.
The community is better for it. Now, we've talked about how interesting this sort of mix of cultures is. And so I'm going to keep you on board for a next piece that was written by the Japanese composer Toru Takemitsu. Takemitsu grew up in Tokyo, which was really close to our sister city of Shimizu. And he was world famous as a symphonic composer, and he wrote over 90 film scores. And so this was somebody who's really adept at writing not only for the live stage, but for the screen. And he published a series of 3 film scores for string orchestra, and we're doing the outer 2 pieces of that sandwich. And the first one is called Music of Training and Rest. And this was written for a documentary in 1959 about the famous Puerto Rican boxer, Jose Torres. And so if you think about the mixture of Japanese influence with Puerto Rican, and you'll hear a lot of it after he gets through some opening really gripping chords, it sounds like he's singing the blues with a string orchestra. And I just can't help remembering the very first time I came to Stockton 25 years ago. there was a place that no longer, I don't know if it still exists, but it was on the corner of Benjamin Holt and West Lane. It was a Cambodian restaurant. And I always can't help it. I'm a conductor, so I'm always listening to what they're playing on the soundtrack in a restaurant. And I was hearing like this Cambodian music, but in the background there were trumpets going da 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 ba. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm listening to Cambodian salsa. You know, and so the interesting fusion that you get from different cultures is really fascinating. And I think we'll hear this in this Takemitsu piece. Listen not only for their kind of bluesy influences, but the amazing number of rests, silences. You know, the bass will go beam, ba, beam, ba, 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 beam. You know, there will be these little pause silences where you expect a beat to be, and it's all about this boxer who keeps punching the bag and then giving himself a rest, and you'll hear little romantic interludes in the middle. So here is that wonderful kind of fusion idea. A Japanese composer writing about a Puerto Rican boxer who's singing the blues. Check this out. Did you hear the blues?
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
One of the best things that I do for me when I'm listening to music at home, I turn the lights out, close my eyes, and it sounds different when you are not looking with the distractions on the outside.
Right.
You can actually get into and listen to the sound, and it reminds you of a lot of things in your past or your present. And when you listen with your eyes closed, it gives a different flavor. It really, really does. And I do that quite often. And one of the regrets that I have, if I have a regret, Peter, my mother made all of us take music, my sisters and myself, and I hated it.
Oh,
Really, and because I had to go. And then as we fast forward to where we are now, I thought about I had to take trumpet lessons. Yeah, I did that. I took piano lessons.
you know that makes you smarter, right?
Yes, it really does. Taking trumpet lessons doesn't make you a blowhard, but it makes you appreciate.
Sure.
And my sisters became very proficient in the piano. And I had one recital, and I was paralyzed to be on the stage in elementary school or situated playing the piano. But as I think back on it, that's why I appreciate music. Subliminally, it went into my cosm, and I listened to all kinds of music, and I thoroughly enjoy the symphony. I don't like acid rock, I have to confess that.
Oh,
It doesn't do anything
well,
for me.
we'll work on that.
Oh,
Well, Ben, what a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for your brainchild for starting this whole thing. And we're going to take just a brief break and come back with a new guest. Don't touch that dial. All right, great. We're back, everybody. Again, I'm Peter Jaffe, your host of Symphony Mix. I'm the music director and conductor of the Stockton Symphony. We're talking about a concert we're giving on April 27th, devoted to music from our sister cities. And we now have a great new illustrious guest. Leslie Edmond is the executive director of the Central Valley Asian Chamber of Commerce. Leslie, welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and what an honor to be with Stockton's Maestro today.
Well, it's an honor for me to be with you. I mean, not only are the executive director, but you're also a member of the Sister Cities, aren't you?
I am. I am a member of the Ilo Sister Cities and support the Shimizu Sister Cities. As the Chamber of Commerce, we are sort of a bridge to all the different Asian ethnicities in our community. So it is a pleasure to be able to support the Sister Cities as well.
I'm in total awe of what you do. I can't help thinking of one other person that has a similar role as Jesus Andrade, who's on the Stockton City Council, and he's the head of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And when you think of anything Hispanic, I mean, there are so many countries and so many cultures, and it's easy for us to sort of lump them all together, but they're very distinct, and it's the same thing. I mean, we have a lot of different Asian cities, but we're talking about really different cultures here. I mean, just, you don't have to name every single one, but tell us some of the different cultures that you're actually representing.
We do. We have a really broad representation of the Asian population in our chamber. As a matter of fact, in San Joaquin County, the Asian population represents about 18 to 19% of the population. The major initial Asian population or Asian groups that became members of our chamber were the Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino groups. They were the oldest Asian populations in our city. And then that followed, we had a wave of the Southeast Asians. So we have the Vietnamese, the Cambodian, the Hmong. We also have Korean. We have the East Indian population now. And
I mean, that's a huge chunk of the world.
Very broad.
Yeah.
Yes.
My illustrious predecessor, who conducted the Stockton Symphony for 27 years, was Kyung-Soo Won, who was Korean. And he went for a while back to Seoul, Korea, but he's not actually living with his wife here back in Stockton. But he was the one, and I always give him credit for this, he was the one who really took the Stockton Symphony from being a volunteer community orchestra to the full-fledged professional regional orchestra that it is. And so, you know, the Koreans have a really rich history, as all the other Asian cultures do. So what made you first sort of attracted to this society? What made you decide to become involved?
To join the chamber or to
reach
out to the chamber? Well, I think it was probably back in the mid-2000s. I was kind of winding down from my career. I was in retail sales and management in women's fashion. And so I, you know, like when you're trying to make a transition, you make that little bucket list. And on that bucket list was an item, kind of reconnect with your Asian roots. So I made a phone call to the CEO of the Asian Chamber, Dennis Lee. And he said, I know how to get you involved and reconnected. Why don't you come and volunteer with us? And that's where it all began.
And so I promise we won't tell anybody else. But how did you become the executive director? Was this something they applied for, or you applied for, or they said, we need somebody, and they volunteered you?
You know, it's funny. They say the heart of a volunteer is so dear. Volunteerism is so important. That's what I essentially did. And before I knew it, I was a board of director, and I continued to volunteer. I learned more. It was working with the world of nonprofits was really different for me. So it's very interesting. I was so very curious to see how a nonprofit worked. And I just sort of took on more and more. And before I knew it, the position landed in my lap.
You were an expert by osmosis. So
yes.
you've heard this amazing excerpt that we played right before the break of Takemitsu. And that was the first of his 3 film scores. And we've got the last one here. You know, when we're talking about Takemitsu and the whole idea of fusion, how he absorbed as a Japanese composer all sorts of different styles. The next piece is going to blow all of our minds, because we heard Takemitsu being influenced by blues and thinking about a Puerto Rican boxer. The next piece is called Waltz, and it was from a different film that Takemitsu wrote the score for that was produced in 1966, which was not a documentary, but it was a very actually moving story about a survivor from a factory fire who had their face changed by plastic surgery. And what happens in the film is actually their personality changes as a result. It's really kind of, you know, Twilight Zone type of idea. But here, the characters have gone basically into a beer hall. And so they're hearing music as if it was straight out of 19th century Vienna. And so what we're hearing here is actually the fusion of a Japanese composer writing as if a Strauss waltz, like the Blue Danube or something like that. And so it's actually hard to even remember when we're listening to this that this was written by a Japanese composer, because it could have been written by a Viennese or a German composer. But here it is, the very brief but very moving waltz from Face of Another. There's another really dancey piece, huh?
Very dancey, and I took Ben Reddish's advice. Listen to it with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's really dreamy, isn't it?
Yeah, very dreamy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do a complete change of pace now. There's a wonderful living Chinese composer. Her name is CHEN YI. And I've known her ever since my days when I was at the Assa Music Festival in the previous century. And she's a brilliant composer who writes in many different styles, but she wrote this Capriccio, which is only about 4 minutes long, for Kansas City, and it's a choral orchestral work. And so I should say, folks, that when you come to this concert on April 27th, we're going to have a chorus of 200 singers for the final 2 numbers of this program. And that immense chorus is made up from singers from Delta College, from the choruses here, from the choruses at the University of the Pacific, and from the Stockton Chorale. And it's Bruce Southard, who's the director of choruses here in the Stockton Chorale, and the choral director at the University of the Pacific is Yeji Choi. And it's really great to be able to collaborate with those people. And we've been planning this thing for months. And so we're ending with 2 really huge pieces. And one of them is by CHEN YI, this piece for huge chorus and orchestra. And it's very upbeat, but it's contemporary upbeat. And so it's got a lot of zowie, powy, almost dissonant chords. But then you'll hear them sing kind of folk song-like melodies. And then a lot of chanting, where they're not even singing notes, but just singing a lot of chanting. And in any language, Chinese, English, it doesn't matter. They're just nonsense syllables, like zaba, 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 joop, zaba, zaba, joop, zaba, 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 joop, you know, like that. And you can hear them chanting, and it's just a really engaging work. And she grew up very near the sister city of Foshan. And so she's still living, and I've had a great opportunity to conduct several of her pieces over the past few decades. One of them we did with the Stockton Symphony long time ago, a string piece called Sprout. But this piece is just all stops pulled with a lot of great special effects. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, yes is a good answer. Yeah. So let's hear the Capriccio by CHEN YI. almost wish I wasn't conducting the concert. I wish I could be in the chorus to get to go, oh, bop, zappa zappa joop, hey, hey, you know. It's just, you know, full of brimming energy. That's quite a change of pace, right?
You can really hear that East meets West
Yeah.
in this piece. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch and hear the choral groups perform this.
And of course,
live.
even if we have a recording, it's nothing like seeing the performing. I mean, when you have a chorus of 200 in the orchestra, it's like, whoa, you know, you just get blown away from the auditorium. And just to mention, because we don't have time for all the clips today, but in this same concert are several pieces that we're not airing on the air today, but we're playing a Cambodian suite, which is really cool, and also a medley of Filipino folk songs. And so there are a lot of really interesting things in this program. Now, it's so great that you're here. And do you have any final words of wisdom for us? Maybe you can tell us some of the activities that the Asian Chamber does.
I'd be happy to. Our chamber is, our mission is to help promote and help grow businesses, particularly Asian American businesses in our community, and also local commerce. So our focus is really small business. Our mantra would be shop local. And we really believe that if we have a strong business community, that helps with the vitality and the overall quality of our life here, which is why we have business mixers every month. And this month, on April 25th, our mixer will be at the Mexican Heritage Center.
Wonderful.
So you might think, well, why? They're not Asian. No, but we're very inclusive, and our membership is open to everyone. So the Mexican Heritage Center is downtown Stockton, and we have two other members within that center, the Cerna Gallery and Terra Coffee. So we believe in helping businesses promote their synergy, especially when you have businesses that are clustered together. It's just a stronger way of promoting them. We're going to have 4 local eateries downtown providing their small bites, and we'll have entertainment. We do that every month, once a month on the 4th Thursday of the month. And of course, we have 2 signature events each year. Our recent recognition awards dinner, where the Radishes were one of our honorees. And we also have a women's leadership event in October, Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling. And this is where we get to highlight Asian American women leaders in our community. Last year, one of our—
And CHEN YI is a great example of that.
Yes, absolutely. And we like to put the spotlight on women that really break the barrier, such as Pam Lee, who was a past president of the Stockton Symphony Association.
Right, and she's still on our board.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You often see Asian women as the performers or the musicians, even as conductors or
sure,
composers. But Pam has really broken, I think, a ceiling. She is in the executive suite, and she's helped to promote the symphony. And we think that's very important for the community, and she sets the bar high for other Asian women.
Well, thank you so much. And I love the mantra to shop local. My wife and I make a point of doing that all the time, and I think it's really great. So we're going to take another break, but thank you so much for being with us, Leslie.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
So now we have with us another distinguished guest, Janie Reddish, who is president of the Sister Cities organization. You know, we're talking about an upcoming concert with the Stockton Symphony on April 27th. It's featuring music from each of the regions of our 7 sister cities. So at the top of the hour, Janie, we told the story about how Ben, your husband, in our board meeting suggested that we do something with the sister cities. And I had no clue that it shows you how out of touch I am. I had no clue that you were actually the president of this organization. And so my question to you is, did you even know that he was going to float that question, or did he come back and tell you post facto?
Well, really he didn't. And I think I discovered it indirectly by reading it. If you know my husband, he is not a person who talks a lot.
Well, he just did on the show.
Yes, but only because he was sitting in this chair. And he very seldom ever shares about me. But one of the things that I always count on from him is support with whatever I'm doing. And as president of the Stockton Sister Cities, I was just so excited to hear that he thought that this would be a good idea to celebrate our sister cities with the symphony. And not only because I enjoy the symphony, but I'm so enchanted by the person who directs the symphony.
Oh, who is that?
I think he's just outstanding. And you know, I just think that the Stockton Sister Cities provides such diversity in our Stockton community, bringing all of our cultures together. And that's the thing that I feel will happen with the symphony hosting this wonderful activity.
And you take your role really seriously. I mean, I once visited the Filipino organization, and there you and Ben were. I mean, you're always visiting these different places. What got you interested? I mean, it's almost like the umbrella, right? You're kind of like the umbrella of diversity, if we want to coin a phrase. I mean, what got you onto this?
Well, you know, if you think about my background, I am a retired school principal, and I've been involved with all of the different cultures throughout the years, and I'm talking years. I was
More than two.
Like, you know, just being a principal, I was involved in the community over 20 years, and then as an educator over 37 years.
Didn't you even teach here at Delta College?
I taught at Delta College, and it was a diverse class even at that time. Also at the University of the Pacific, working with Teacher Corps, and that was definitely an integrated group. I was a part of the first Cambodian group that came to Stockton as a school principal. We transitioned the students into my school. So you can see my career goes way back. My involvement goes way back. I guess I just dated myself.
No, we're just right there. Only the kids are getting older. We're just staying right there.
Staying right there.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that, but it is important that experience is there, and I'm speaking from the heart because doing all those years, I enjoyed it so much.
Well, that's so wonderful, and the community is indebted to what you do. And let's hear a piece that speaks from the heart. This is a Nigerian piece from a composer named Fela Sowande. And you know, we have this Nigerian city of Asaba. I gotta say, it was the hardest to find a composer who was near Asaba. But we got, you know, within a day's drive of there. With this composer, Fela Sowande, who's written a really sweet piece called Lullaby. And you can hear this wonderful influence of both sort of spiritual is there, but also there's a little bit of the French Impressionistic composers in the middle. It's a very interesting fusion. So here is the Lullaby by Fela Sowande. Isn't that sweet?
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I just relaxed.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a lullaby.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, you can imagine putting one of your loved young ones to sleep with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the one city we haven't talked about yet is Parma, Italy. And the Stockton Symphony has an enormous Italian tradition because it was founded by a brilliant Italian immigrant, Manlio Silva. And we're one of the few cities in the world that even has a school named after the founding director of the orchestra. There's the Manlio Silva School up in North Stockton. And so this orchestra is now in its 92nd season. It's just amazing. And it all started in 1926 with this brilliant Italian immigrant and our sister city of Parma, the famous operatic composer Giuseppe Verdi, which in English means Joe Green, wrote this enormous opera, Aida. And we're about to hear something from the second act of Aida, the triumphal scene. And you have to realize that usually when this thing is staged, there are hundreds of people on the stage. And we do have a huge chorus, but usually there's even an elephant that walks across the stage. And there are these, rows and rows of Egyptian trumpets. And before we play the whole thing, I want you to hear the Egyptian trumpets because this theme is so famous. At one point, it was in a car commercial. Just listen to this. Sound familiar?
Wonderful. Not only that, but the Italian sister city offers so many opportunities, not only for the members to travel, but it's open to the community. So I want our young people to think about that. When if you've never been to Italy, that would be a wonderful opportunity to travel.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the symphony will make you feel like, wow, I need to do that. My husband and I have traveled to Italy before, and of course we plan to do it again.
Great food.
Yes, great food.
Well, there's great food in all the sister cities.
Great everything. The exposure is so wonderful. So, think about that.
And so much of the language of music is Italian.
Yes.
Like all the indications that we learn, whether something is fast, allegro, or slow, largo, or andante, so many of the terms that we use in music are Italian. And so
Our sister cities provide many opportunities for participation in activities here in Stockton. And of course, Dinah Laurie, who is the representative for the sister cities, Italian sister city, works with the University of the Pacific and Delta College to involve students. And we invite you students always to come and participate in each of our sister cities activities. As president, that's my goal, is to make sure our community and our activities are diverse. And we try to integrate everyone into what we're doing. So I just want to extend that invitation. I'd like to just take an opportunity to highlight Peter, because, he's doing all of this wonderful talking, but he's the one who makes the difference by just making sure we're all here so that you can hear about what our sister cities are doing.
Well,
Peter, I just want to thank you.
Well, you're making me blush, but thank you, Janie. You're an angel, and I'm so grateful for everything you do. And I think we ought to play at home now with the triumphal scene from the second act of Aida. And you just got to be there, everybody, with the Stockton Symphony and these huge combined choruses on April 27th. So here we go, the grand triumphal scene from Aida. So you can tell we're pulling out all the stops, right?
Yes.
So you gotta be there, everybody. Thanks so much again for spending another time with an episode of Symphony Mix. We'll see you at the concert hall.